Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. When we talk about AEO split testing and content agents today, we're looking at it through the lens of a completely modern search reality. At seoClarity, we look at the hardest enterprise challenges, like the shift from only Google and SERP listing visibility to summarized AI answers. Our data-first engine handles the entire workflow. We capture SEO and AEO data, identify your specific visibility gaps, enable human-in-the-loop with intelligent agents, and then use Clarity Automate to push those optimizations live at the edge in real time. Now, I want to start today by dropping us straight into a scenario that I know many of you have lived through recently, or one you're trying to actively avoid. Imagine you're sitting in a leadership review. Traditional search traffic might be fluctuating. Let's say it's about 12% down. But your brand new AI visibility dashboards look great. Your brand is showing up in citations, early generative search metrics look incredibly healthy. And then your CMO or VP looks across the table, bypasses the fluff, and asks that ultimate budget-defining question. What exactly did the SEO team change that caused that lift? And what are we going to do next to scale it? And suddenly, the room goes quiet. Because while you have plenty of data showing that you're appearing in AI engines, you don't have an evidence-backed answer for why. You have a lot of visibility metrics, but you don't have definitive proof. That brings us to the exact problem we are here to solve today. As enterprise SEOs, we've been forced into a corner by a massive measurement fragmentation crisis across AI search. We're wrestling with three distinct pain points when reporting upwards. The first of those we call dark search. Users are researching complex buying decisions directly inside tools like ChatGPT. They make a massive purchase decision without ever clicking through to our websites. Traditional analytics show a flat line of zero traffic, yet the brand impact from the AI was probably massive. How do we track what traditional analytics completely miss? Next is siloed metrics. We've been forced to chase volatile platform-specific numbers, citation counts, mention rates, and the shifting visibility scores that fluctuate wildly week to week. We're trying to defend multi-million-dollar strategies using numbers that haven't even stabilized yet. And finally, we're being overwhelmed by external case studies with conflicting recommendations. The internet is flooded with viral one-off AEO hacks. We hear that changing content to Markdown drives an 845% traffic lift from DeepSeek, or that traditional schema markup has virtually zero impact on LLM visibility. But the enterprise question isn't what worked for someone else. It's what works right here on our specific domain, and how can I prove it to the people who hold the budget? Page-level performance is where traditional search and AI search converge, and it's where the actual business decisions get made. So our guiding principle for this session is simple. Visibility scores tell you if you showed up. Page-level performance and split testing tell you if what you did actually mattered. But how do you run a split test on an LLM when you can't split live user traffic 50-50? How do you isolate your optimizations from the pure background noise, volatility, and constant algorithmic updates of AI models? And that's exactly why we put this webinar together. We're moving past the theoretical hype and driving straight into a rigorous, repeatable testing discipline. We're going to walk you through the exact AEO split testing methodology our enterprise clients use to find true directional signals in a volatile world. So here's what you're going to learn. First, how to pick, tier, and pair prompts with target pages to produce real signal, not background noise. Second, how to build a control group out of correlated pages when traditional A/B frameworks don't apply. And finally, where Google's new first-party Search Console Gen AI reports fit in, and why third-party tracking is still mandatory for ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity. Now, we aren't just going to hand you theoretical ideas to optimize your content. We're going to give you a concrete data framework to defend your budget to leadership. And to walk us through this exact blueprint and show us some real anonymized client proof, I'm turning the floor over to my colleagues Mihir and Suraj.
Thanks, Mark. Split testing has always been one of the more advanced disciplines in SEO. With AEO and GEO, it becomes even more important. Today, we are excited to share a methodology that's working very well for us. But first, let's set the context. For 25 years, SEO have been about driving clicks. We measured rankings, traffic, conversion, and getting onto page one of the Google was already a win. AI search changes that goal. Now we are trying to influence the AI's response. That means we are now measuring mentions, citations, sentiment, recommendation, and not just traffic. The optimization loop changes too. Your content needs to be discovered, retrieved, cited, and ultimately become a trusted source. And when the optimization and measurement change, the testing has to change and evolve as well. That's exactly what we will cover today. Today, everyone is talking about tactics, FAQ sections, question based headings, schema, chunking content, and much more. Those tactics may help you become more visible, don't get me wrong. But the visibility alone doesn't tell you what actually worked. Did that change cause the improvement? Will it work for your website or other website, your industry, your competitive landscape? Is it reproducible? That's where the experimentation come in. Today's methodology give you a structured way to test changes, measure their impact, and identify what actually moves the needle in AI search. Now, before I hand it over to Suraj, there is one final concept that's important to understand. Not every AI mention creates the same value. And let me explain. The first milestone is simply being mentioned. Your brand appears in AI response. That's a progress. Now you are part of the response. You're visible. But the next level is being mentioned accurately, where AI represents your brand correctly and with the right context. A stronger outcome is earning a citation alongside that mention. When the model cites your content or a page from your website, that means that your website is directly supporting the answer or influencing the answer that is being generated. And the highest level is authority, where your content consistently becomes the source that AI relies on. Your brand is mentioned accurately, your website is cited, and you are recommended as an answer. That's a progression that we are ultimately trying to influence. With that context, let's dive into methodology behind AEO and GEO experimentation, and I will hand it over to Suraj, who is going to walk you through the framework and the approach that we have developed.
Suraj, walk us through how to set up tests that can cut through the murkiness around AI search. Let's start with clearing up a big concern. How do we run tests when there are so many AI platforms?
Sure thing, Mark. This is what makes AI search feel harder than traditional SEO. It's not just one platform, it's many. We know what the most popular ones are. It's ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, and Google's AI mode. But each have its own way of finding answers and its own way of showing sources. Most teams try and solve this by picking a favorite platform or a few platforms and focusing their energies there. That may not always work because your buyers use all of them and all in different ways and different points in their research. The good news is how you run a test doesn't have to change from platform to platform. The same approach for picking the prompts that matter, the same approach for choosing the pages you want to surface, and the same test and control setup you already know from SEO split testing. What changes engine to engine isn't the method, it's only the data that you have available proves the test worked. And this is the practical view, the one you'll actually reference when you're setting up a test. There's four things to know for each platform. Does it read JavaScript? Which bots crawl it? Where do the answers show up? And most importantly, do you have data from the source? Google's AI search engines are the standouts. And it's generally good news because they Google and they also read JavaScript. ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity are in a different boat. They don't run JS, so what they see is the non-rendered version of the page. But the biggest measurement upgrade for AI search testing just got released, and it just happened a few weeks ago. On June 3rd, Google launched dedicated Search Console reports for AI overviews and AI mode. For the first time, you can log into Search Console and see page by page how often each URL on your site is showing up inside the AI search features and straight from Google. This has been the hardest thing to measure in AI search. Everyone was sampling, everyone was inferring, but now Google's just giving it to you. But there's two things I want to call out. First, it validates our approach, right? We'll talk about Google reporting impressions at a later stage. But what it's doing is it's very similar to how we approach it with a prompt plus page unit that we built our whole methodology around. Secondly, it's first party data straight from the source. And that's a completely different level of trust than any third party tool. But there's some limitations too, and we should be honest about them. It's impressions only right now, it's not citations, and it's not click through. Secondly, it's Google services only. AI overviews, AI mode, Gemini, and it's rolling out only to a subset of sites. We've heard it's rolling out to UK first and then to US. So don't be surprised if you don't see it in your Search Console yet. And there's no API for it yet, as far as we know. For ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity, you will still need structured third-party tracking, which is exactly what most of this methodology is built around.
Okay, so what about at the prompt level? Are there any adjustments we need to make for the nature of AI search there?
Yeah, AI search has its own funnel, and it's much wider than the traditional one. It's not just buy intent keywords anymore. Buyers are asking at every stage of their journey, right? There's awareness, which is at the top. So this is where someone's learning that a category or solution even exists. You have discovery. Discovery is the shortlist moment. If you're not here, you don't make it to the next stage. Then comes evaluation. This is where there's direct comparison. And it's the highest stakes conversation because it's where the narrative actually gets shaped. Fourth, you have decision. This is where they're ready to buy. They're checking on your commercial terms inside the AI response. And lastly, it's existing customers coming in the retention phase. This is when they're troubleshooting or learning about your product. This last stage is optional when it comes to AI search testing because it requires you run tests for a longer period of time after the decision phase. But what we do is we'll build one set of prompts. We call it a golden set of prompts that will span all the stages, and every prompt is tagged by stage. So when a test moves the needle, we will know exactly where in the funnel the win came from. Because a win at awareness is very different than a win at evaluation. And once you have your funnel spanning prompt set, the question is, where do you focus? What we do is we sort every prompt by where you stand in the AI's response. And this is maybe the single most useful filter in the entire methodology. Tier 1 is your easy win. This is where the model already mentions you, but it does not cite a specific page. You're relevant, but AI just hasn't been given a URL worth linking to. Add structured content, and you can often move from mention to citation within one testing cycle. Think of this as, striking distance keywords that we look at in SEO testing. You're almost there, but you're not there yet. Tier 2 is the heavier lift. This is when you're absent entirely. So the AI doesn't reference you at all. So this is where you have to establish relevance from scratch. It's a much bigger investment, but the win is also more meaningful because you're taking share from whoever is currently there. And then you have the excluded bucket, prompts where you're already consistently cited. You're already doing well in these, so we'll just drop this from the treatment because since you're already winning, there's nothing more left to win. The URL you want to get cited is already showing up. And testing here just adds noise to analysis. So sorting it this way matters because it sequences your program correctly. You start with the highest probability wins. And those early wins are what buys you the political capital to run harder tests later.
So great. Some really good insights there on getting set up, getting your test set for success, right? So now what's the best way to track that success?
Yeah. So here's how we actually track it, right? For each prompt, say, best running shoes for flat feet, we would pair it with the specific page you want to show up for that prompt. In this case, it's a blog post on shoes for flat feet. So for every stage in the business in your search funnel, you would have a prompt that you set up with a page. Then every day or every week or every data point, we would ask a simple yes or no question across all the AI search engines we want to include in the test. Did the page appear in the response? That's it. That is the unit. Doing it this way keeps everything tied to something that you actually care about. We're not measuring brand visibility as a vague concept. We're measuring whether the exact page you want to surface actually surfaced for the exact question that mattered. And because it's a simple binary yes or no captured, for every data point, you can slice the data any way you want, by prompt, by page, by engine. And the number underneath would stay consistent.
So now let's turn to testing itself. What's the biggest challenge in setting up valid testing for AI search?
Great question, Mark. So unlike a CRO A/B test, you can't show one version of your page to some users and a different version to others. What we follow is the same approach we would do for SEO-based split tests. Since the AI just sees what's on your page, period. The best way to get clear results is to build a control group. We would pick a set of pages on your site that have the same page type and have historically moved in traffic patterns similar to your test pages. So it's directionally similar. And that control group becomes your noise filter. And very simply, if both your test group and control group start moving the same way at the same time, something changed on an AI side. Could be a model update, could be an algorithm shift, or something else. But the result would be unclear. But if only your test group moves and your control group stays flat or moves very slightly, your change is a likely cause. And that is a clean signal. Without a control group, every result would be guesswork, right? With one, you can tell a real win from the background noise. And there's also a thing about timing, right? Before you make any change, you need to build the baseline. So you need to measure both your test group and your control group for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And this applies especially when it comes to weekly tracking, right? 3 to 4 weeks would give you 3 to 4 data points where you can determine, what the baseline is. And this would give you a stable read on what normal looks like. Then the change goes live on the test pages only. You keep measuring for another 6 to 8 weeks. The length actually matters because you're trying to target the entire search funnel. And AI search doesn't respond overnight the way traditional SEO sometimes does. The AI has to crawl, reindex, and stabilize its answers. Anything less than 6 weeks, and you could be reading noise. At the end, the math is simple. Take how much the test group moved, subtract how much the control group moved, and the difference is your result. You land in one of three places. Did it work? Test group moved and the control was flat. It's a clean win. It becomes unclear when both move together, so something bigger was going on. The third is iterate. Nothing moved, and you go back to design a stronger change. All three outcomes are useful because each result tells you something important about your hypothesis.
Okay, well, now that we know how to set up a valid test and read the results, how about some examples?
For sure, Mark. To make this concrete, there's 3 tests that we ran for 3 different clients. We ran the same methodology, but we had 3 very different outcomes. The FAQ test was a clear win, and we'll come back to that one in a minute. But we also ran a meta description test. This is where we changed meta description on a large number of pages. We replaced the existing meta description with the one that front load the direct answer that would make it easier for AI models to lift the key fact. But surprisingly, the result was no impact. The change did not move citations either way. Then we ran a listicle test. The hypothesis here was that AI models frequently give the best X for Y and top X queries by generating ranked lists. The content is already structured as an explicit number list. For example, number one, product A, best overall. Number two, product B, best value, and so forth. The AI can then see it directly, and it can lift your ranking directly. But the result here was inconclusive. The math did not come out clean, and we'll show you why in the next few slides. But here's the mindset shift that I want to leave you with. The result is a win. Even when nothing moved, because now you know, you're not guessing anymore what works. You got evidence one way or another. And that's more than most teams in AI search have today. Here's details about the FAQ test. We took about 1,000 prompts under measurement. We split it across test and control groups. We added FAQ sections to the test pages. And what we found that citations started climbing versus a control group and stayed elevated for as long as the change was live. But here's the part I really love. We reverted the change on some pages as a check, and the citations fell back down. That's the second half of proof. Not that citations just went up when we added FAQs, but that they went back down when we took them away. That's causation, not correlation. And it's the standard we want for every test. Because in 6 months, when someone asks, are you sure it was the FAQ that did it? You actually have an answer. We know FAQ works, right? We know a lot of people are testing it, and we know that it works. And we know that building FAQs at scale for enterprise sites can be very challenging. So what seoClarity did is we built ArcAI content agents just for this. With minimal effort, you can bulk generate FAQ content, deploy it via a split tester, and test it. And if it is successful, seoClarity can help deploy it live as well. Let's talk about a few more tests. This test is about schema, and it is one of the most argued questions in AEO right now. The question is, does schema markup actually help AI search engines cite their content, or is it just noise? And everyone has their own opinion, but almost nobody has data on their own site. And that's exactly the kind of debate a split test settles for good. Here's how you set it up. Very simple approach. Your test group gets structured data. It could be product, FAQ, or article schema, whatever fills the content type that you want to test. And your control group is matched pages, same topic, same structure, same everything else, just no schema. And then you're measuring citations and mentions across the AI surfaces you care about for both groups over 6 to 8 weeks. The beauty of this test is that any result is valuable. The schema moves the needle and you know to prioritize it across your site. If it doesn't, you stop spending engineering cycles on it, which is just as valuable. Either way, you replace opinion with evidence on your own domain in just about a couple of months. And this is the kind of test that only exists because we can now measure page-level citations. This is another test. It's newer. It's even more contested. Look at the two panels on the right. That's what Markdown looks like next to the full HTML for the same page. The theory that's driving this test is that since AI crawlers strip your HTML down to structure and text anyway, we know that Claude and others use web fetch and they strip everything down. Why not just give them the Markdown directly? We even know that some AI search engines can even request, the kind of format they want to receive based on the header. So what some SEOs started doing that, they started using user agent detection to serve clean Markdown to AI search bots, betting that it'll lift citations. But others argue that, any divergence between what users see and what bots see is a cloaking risk. But nobody has a definite answer yet. Same idea as schema test. You can settle it for your own stack. And the setup is very simple. For your test group, when an AI bot user agent hits the page, serve a stripped down Markdown version. And everyone else gets standard HTML. Your control group would be served as is, HTML for everyone, no divergence. And you measure two things, bot retrieval activity and citation lift, both against the control. If the markdown moves the needle, you build the pipeline out. If it doesn't, you save yourself the complexity of maintaining two representations of every page. The reason we can even run this test today is that measurement finally good enough, right? A few years ago, this kind of debate was just pure opinion. Now it's a 2-month experiment away from an answer on your own domain with your own content with numbers. And this test can be super hard to set up, right? Because serving Markdown is a capability that not all sites and not all engineering teams have. But here's where seoClarity can help. We have a product called Bot Optimizer that not only serves rendered versions of pages, but can also be used to serve Markdown format for specific user agents and pages when needed. And that too without using extensive dev resources. So, we've been talking about, the last two tests, which were these big question tests, schema, markdown, they're the big questions, and they're large commitments each. This slide is different. Content structures are super important for AI search. So there's a series of small, fast tests that you can run on any high-value template. Could be your blog posts, could be your product pages, could be your category pages, does not matter. Each one is a specific structural change. You can spin it up very quickly and read the results in a few weeks. You could do summary or TLDR at the top, with the theory that AI search models prefer to lift self-contained summaries over hunting through 2,000 words. Bulletin lists, scannable structures versus dense prose, same content in a different form. Then you have content simplicity, plain, assertive language versus jargon, because AI tends to prefer the plainest version of a claim. You have FAQ blocks, direct Q&A anchors built for retrieval, with the AI can pull cleanly. Question style headings, matching how people actually prompt. If your H2 says product overview, but the user prompts, is X worth it? Those don't match. Test rewriting them. Lastly, you've got comparison tables. Structured fact engines lift cleanly, especially for X versus Y queries. Pick 2 or 3, run them in parallel, learn quickly. The point isn't just getting the answer for a specific site, building the muscle to run these experiments continuously. And that's what turns AI search from a one-time project into an ongoing discipline. And as always, seoClarity has thought about this, and we have ArcAI Content Optimizer that helps developing the content for these page types really easily, and then you can use Split Tester to test it. So everything we talked about so far is the manual methodology. It's absolutely runnable by hand, but at enterprise scale, millions of URLs, dozens of tests, multiple markets, running it manually becomes a full-time job. And you may also need help getting started. So we have a product, which is Split Tester. It's the same method you saw, but it's built into a workflow with white glove service that can help you run it really quickly and easily. So a couple of things worth calling out. No dev required. Number one, you don't need to wait 3 to 6 months for engineering to get the bandwidth to prioritize your test. Number two, the same tool covers both classic SEO and AEO. So you can run a test and you can see how it impacts SEO and AEO at the same time. So you're not learning from two different systems. And it works across millions of pages. URL count isn't the bottleneck anymore. When it comes to the next phase, there's just 3 simple steps. It's the same shape as the manual methodology, it's just much faster. So number one, identify. The tool will build your test and control groups automatically from correlated pages. No manual pairing, no spreadsheet, no manual effort on your side. Number two, deploy. Push the change with just a single line of code. No dev queue, no waiting. If you can copy paste, you can deploy a test. Analyze. The correlation math and the significance testing are all built in. You don't need a data scientist to tell you whether the result is real. Our team and the system will read the outcome for you and will present it in the simplest way possible. This whole manual methodology becomes a repeatable workflow, which practically means you're running 10 tests a quarter instead of 2. And is designed to answer the questions your CMO actually asked at the quarterly review. Not only bot hits or crawl frequency, real metrics, mentions, citations, click-through rate, overall visibility, revenue impact. The value isn't just having the data, is being able to, hand your leadership a report that says, here's what we changed, here's what caused it, and here's what is worth in revenue. And that's the conversation you want to be having about AI search. And this is the tooling that lets you have it. Okay, Mark, now sum things up for us.
So we've arrived at the point where the methodology has paid off. Through rigorous split testing, you've filtered out the volatility, looked past the dashboard noise, and found the definitive winning optimization signal. But this is exactly where enterprise SEO teams typically hit a massive brick wall. It's the bridge from knowing what to change to actually changing it everywhere. Now let's be honest about what happens next in the real world. If your data proves that adding structured FAQ blocks or short question-style headings triggers a massive lift in ChatGPT or Gemini citations, how do you actually execute that? If you have an e-commerce or directory site with 5,000, 10,000, or 50,000 URLs, you are suddenly staring down a nightmare scenario. Historically, you've had two choices, and both of them suck. The first is manual updates. You beg for engineering resources. You wait 6 months in a dev queue and force your copywriting team into hours of mind-numbing manual rewriting. By the time it's deployed, the LLM landscape has already shifted. Or automated AI slop. You get desperate, dump your URLs into a basic LLM API, and end up with generic, soulless AI output that completely flattens your brand voice and violates your legal team's compliance guidelines. You shouldn't have to choose between speed and brand integrity. And that's the exact reason we built ArcAI content agents. So ArcAI acts as the operational engine that takes the precise insights your test validated and scales them instantly across your entire site. As you can see on this slide, the platform executes this through a highly structured enterprise-grade framework. So first of all, it deploys validated formats. The ArcAI content agents focus exclusively on implementing the exact structural fixes your data verified, whether that means rewriting page titles, generating concise TLDRs, reformatting question-style headings, or injecting targeted FAQ blocks. And it does this at massive API scale. Instead of updating pages one by one, ArcAI applies these adjustments across thousands of URLs simultaneously, utilizing robust MCP and API connections. And it holds your brand voice. You never have to worry about generic AI phrasing. The agents are trained on your specific brand guidelines, ensuring that every generated asset retains your distinct corporate identity and vocabulary. And very, very important, we have human-in-the-loop governance. Because this is enterprise search, safety is a non-negotiable. ArcAI operates with a strict human-in-the-loop architecture, meaning your team reviews, tweaks, and approves the generated changes before anything ever touches a live staging or production environment. So our clients are finding that this is how you move from a successful, isolated experiment to a site-wide lift that catches the attention of your executive suite. So if you remember nothing else from this section, remember this core rule. Testing finds the signal. ArcAI applies it without flattening your voice. You find the data-backed strategy with a split tester, and you execute it instantly with ArcAI. Now let's bring all this together and talk about your exact action plan moving forward. As we wrap up today's session, I want to circle back to exactly what we promised you when you registered for this webinar. We set out to give you a definitive framework to move past the chaos of AI volatility and establish true, evidence-backed proof for your organization. So remember the 3 critical pillars we covered today. Pick the prompts that matter, build an enterprise-grade control group, and harness first-party page-level performance. And if you take only one overarching message away from our discussion today, Let it be the core line that runs through our entire testing program. AI visibility dashboards tell you that you showed up. Page-level performance and split testing tells you exactly what moved. That distinction is how you stop guessing, how you confidently answer your executive team, and how you successfully defend your marketing budget. Now, would you like us to run a test for you to see how enlightening these results can be? The first 10 viewers who book a demo using the QR code on your screen now, upon completion of the demo, will get a $50 gift card. And Heather will also share the link in the chat and also send it to you in the follow-up email. Don't miss this opportunity to get real insights you can use to guide your strategy. Now back over to Heather for your questions.